Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm sure you've seen a couple of slam builds flying around lately, be it the Sempote's Kittag itself, or more. In wake of the Titron's nerf, many other hammers lately are rising to prominence. Don't get this wrong, Titron is still very strong and works quite well. However, we did lose the shiny big billion damage setup. Today's video will be looking at two different ways on how to handle an old hammer. The Jat Kittag, with of course, Lavos. The main draw of this weapon is its augments, the Vulcan Blitz. This sets it apart from other hammers because it makes enemies explode with percent HP damage upon death. Now, normally this isn't that useful because you'll see that, here, when I just go and slam them without proper strip, like if I can kill them off, armor is a problem. Right? And obviously Vulcan Blitz sucks against that. However, we have a couple of solutions against that today. So let's dive right in. As a prerequisite, all of today's setups are done assuming 2 Emerald Shards are present for +2 Corrosive stacks each, letting us hit 14 for 100% armor strip. I'm also going to be assuming that you guys are on Nairmon for power spiked and maintaining combo duration for your melees via Dexterity Arcanes, if it shows up here, come on, for your guns. And this allows my Kittag or any melee of choice go towards 20 combo duration. I mean, what else would you do in an all-in melee setup? So the first 2 setups today, if you lose track, just don't worry, it's in the description, but the first 2 setups only work on Saren and Lavos, whereas the third build works on any frame. So for a standard setup against any faction, we now have access to this. Obviously match your Bane correctly. This is because it triple dips melee influence. Now we have either a pure electric or a pure corrosive hammer. I chose focus energy instead of the 60-60, so you have the option to slam, heavy slam, without losing all combo if needed. Obviously Tennokai can help this out a bit as well if you want to depend on having that as an option. Now this is a setup where you will cast the missing element of electric or corrosive with Valence formation on Lavos. Yeah, I didn't have this pre-linked. Oops, that's my bad. But this essentially infuses your weapon with a specific element, and what's more important is it force procs that element. So that will allow you to have both corrosive and electric available so you can activate influence and also spread corrosive procs the full strip from your Emerald Shards. Now, what I also want to mention is this is a spinny crushing ruin build where you alternate between forward melee and forward block combo to get those. It's not an actual spin, like spin attack build, but you use the combos that allow you to do that. However, this grants it much more hits for the hitbox, and this first build is not a slam build, but combined with melee influence, you can easily spread the 14 corrosive procs to full strip within a 20-meter radius, which allows Vulcan Blitz to take over the rest of the work and kill everything off due to the 60% HP damage no longer needing to deal with armor. Now, this hit is actually boosted by the Prime Smite by an extra 55% multiplicative, meaning the explosion will now do 93% of the HP per blast. This is not necessary, but you can combine it with Nourish for fireworks because obviously Nourish's viral procs will also get spread from influence, which will also apply to the explosion damage and put it well into one-shot territory. Now, if you build corrosive and then use Valence formation for electric, which is not what I showed there, I would recommend a rank 3 Valence formation for maximum electric proc scaling. It's the strongest iteration, but may take a moment to hit 14 corrosive stacks since it's not full force proccing. For me, I went the other route. If you build electric and Valence on corrosive, then run a rank 0 Valence formation. Valence has a force proc, and you don't want the corrosive weight that you're adding on to be too high, which is why I leave it at rank 0, so it's 50 instead of 200%. And this allows me to still proc electric consistently on my Kittag to activate influence for big PP damage. Personally, this is what I prefer. Now, Condition Overload can be replaced by Arcane Fury on your Warframe, which would allow you to slot Primed Reach to make it easier to hit enemies to build combo and obviously to spread influence status procs. Now, I would still recommend running Arcane Strike regardless for comfort, since our melee does not have any attack speed equipped at all. Though, thank God, Kittag itself is a 1.0 speed archetype for hammers. Honestly, this kind of build is pretty easy to showcase. It looks very, very basic. You just infuse, say, Corrosive like this, and you just go in, and you attack. And you'll notice they're already full stripped. Before, I had no combo, and they're dead now, right? So that's how you can make really, really good advantage of Vulcan Blitz on Lavos or Saren with Venom Dose currently in the state of the game, with how Vulcan Blitz interacts with melee influence. But of course, what we're really interested in are these slam builds with the slam changes, right? So let's take a look at that. Things get interesting now. We give up crit mods for Dispatch Overdrive and Reflex Coil. Now this lets us slam and jam harder. Speedier moving means you get to new groups sooner to kill. For the influence variant of this build, we stay on pure electric. We want our force procs to be corrosive so that we can guarantee 14 corrosive procs from Emerald Shards and Valence Fusion as fast as possible via slam radius, combining with this 20-meter hitbox from influence. And this also obviously once again lets us run rank 0 Valence formation on Lavos. Otherwise, there is not that much else to say. You can optionally draw Reflex Coil for Seismic Wave if you want, and this will give you even stronger slams, as slam damage is double additive to melee damage. This means it basically applies twice. It's not multiplicative, but it means Seismic Wave is granting plus 400% melee damage instead. Then you'd want to slot Tennokai if you go this route, since you don't have 90% efficiency anymore, and this would allow you to not have to burn as much combo, and you can get free heavy slams at no cost. Discipline's merit's definitely better here. So for that, it would look like this. And because Influence has a 20-meter hitbox, if you can just hit the very front of the enemies with your slam, then you can hit all of them. So you'll see how normally... Oh, well, they're already dead. That's another problem with this build, is stuff dies pretty quickly. So I'd say don't cast your Valence formation until, well, you're ready to kill, because you're already going to be killing in the meantime regardless. Hey, I finally have 12 times combo. Okay, so what you're gonna do is, you see these enemies right there. I can slam right here, and even though Kittag doesn't have the full radius and it can only hit the front, they all die, because that enemies, the ones getting here tagged in the front, will spread all of the procs to everything behind it. Of course, the more enemies within the original slam radius, the more status procs and damage you can deal from the original hit and spread it along that way. However, this is what allows Kittag to compete in the melee meta by increasing the hitbox out to 20 meters through that setup. For the non-influence variant of slams, these can be done on any frame now and not just Lavos and Saren. Now, I would not recommend doing this because Kittag is unable to gain plus slam radius from any source and depends on influence to do so. There are other hammers that can actually get plus slam radius, but because Kittag can't, skipping influence is literally throwing away most of your damage, since it allows Kittag to spread status procs and damage a lot further. But I understand some of you hate this arcane. Other hammers are much better suited to what I'm about to show you, which I'll be uploading in the near future, since their methods of increased slam radius drastically improve hit consistency on crowds to maximize kill box and status spread. So on the non-influence build, you have a choice between either melee duplicates or melee crescendo. Duplicate at max rank, which is 100% chance, and Kittag doesn't have that much crit anyway, so you camp out at around 100. It allows me to hit twice per slam, producing twice as many corrosive procs for full strip, meaning I only need half the amount of enemies present to full strip. Crescendo allows me to keep 12 times combo instead, without ever having to worry about building it back up or needing to weave Tennokai hits in, so you can just go slam and slam in. The slam and jam, basically you go like this, and then you go around, and you can just chain this around forever and kill everything off. Now, Crescendo can be stacked with ground finisher attacks, which the best way to do that is actually with Zephyr's. Okay, it's not on this config, but Zephyr's Airburst will pull enemies directly over to you, and then you basically just press melee on top of them, and you will ground finisher all of them at once in the same spot and build multiple stacks of Crescendo that way. For me, though, today, I still recommend building 90% heavy efficiency even when you do this, because for duplicate, this makes rebuilding combo easier, just a couple of swings to hit 220, not always reliant on Tennokai. For Crescendo specifically, though, this makes it so that when you do spam your, when you do spam your heavy slam, your combo will recharge only from 198 instead of 0, taking only fractions of a second to reset to 12 times. And since it's a dynamic recharge on your combo, this allows you to benefit from 12 times on every hit like this immediately, instead of having to slam, wait for 12 times combo to appear again, and then slamming again. So it's just ease of comfort, quality of life, since of course the build obviously has more than enough damage. You basically just pogo around and rebuild combo if needed if it goes down. And as mentioned earlier, the sample Lavos build looks like this. Arcane Fury and Arcane Strike are pretty important for quality of life reasons. If you're on a heavy slam build, I would strongly recommend bringing the 2 Nira mods, because we do have spots for that, since as mentioned earlier, slam damage applies twice to melee damage, which is another plus 400% here. Valence formation is left unranked, since I prefer to infuse Corrosive for my 1 in 3 most of the time, and maintaining Corrosive weight at just 50% so that I maximize odds of stacking Big Dick Electric dots from having, well, like here, 150% electric. Scaling while still force proccing Corrosive for full strip with Emerald Shards. Saren would use a pretty similar build overall here, just with a Venom Dose Augment instead, which you probably also want unranked. My companion is obviously Nautilus for what I would show today, albeit it's not mandatory for the kit to function, but the main benefit of this here is just having Manifold Bond to drag enemies in. I don't care what else you do. So let's go take that influence build for a showcase, shall we? I do know there was a lot of stuff to cover on in the video, but that is pretty much all of the theory behind what you're able to do. As mentioned, the first build is primarily for Saren or Lavos and is a light attack spam build. Then we have the heavy slam setups for other build playstyles, which is what the new update caters much more towards. And then the third build, which I was showing last, can be used on any frames, though do be aware due to the small slam radius on Kittag, does have its own limitations. However, I will be uploading videos in the next few days over other hammer options that can take full advantage of even non-melee influence setups on any frame and still work to their best extent. So from here, all I basically need to do is tank and build combo in the meantime, because I will already be able to kill, but I don't want to kill them too fast, since that will just make it harder to build combo up. As a reminder, remember, your 1 can lifesteal for you, so on an adaptation Vitality build with Lavos, who already has a fair bit of damage at base steel path, you don't really need to worry that much about dying. You just want to make sure that I can actually build to 12 times combo consistently and easily. Remember, this is the influence variant of the build. Okay, so we're now at 12 times combo. I built for pure electric, so I'm gonna infuse 50% corrosive and force procs this. Okay, you little shit. This is what I get for distracted and talking about all of this stuff. Oh man, why do you have to be like this? So anyways, normally you would have casted your 1 there, like this, to heal. Okay, so we're gonna infuse corrosive like this. And now you can basically just go and slam, and they're all instantly dead, like that if they were there. Okay, there. So somehow I didn't actually hit max procs. I don't know how. And you basically build back up to 12 times like that. You find a new group of enemies, and then you just slam. And now they all die. Because not only do they get the full armor strip from your Emerald Shards and the Corrosive Force procs, but once they're full stripped, the easiest enemies to kill, like the Butchers, they will die. And what ends up happening is it triggers the Kittag explosion from Vulcan Blitz to scale off of their unarmored health and kill them off near instantly. And when they die from Vulcan Blitz, it actually does cause more Vulcan Blitz explosions, which is why you keep seeing everything dying. Sometimes when you have less enemies around, you will not instantly hit max armor strip stacks, but this allows you to basically go around like this and kill them off. Now this variant is not 12 times slam and jam type of gameplay. For that, you really would want Crescendo, which does not work as well on Kittag. But as we know, you can kill through walls, even like that, which bypasses the line of sight check that slams normally have, since you're instead hinging on melee influence's 20-meter spherical hitbox to kill everything off consistently, instead of just needing, well, the planar pizza slice, well, not even a slice, but just an entire pizza shaped around you. We see enemy radar that there's a bunch of enemies over here, so I can keep coming over on this side, and, well, you just kill them like that. And now they're all dead. So yeah, if you're interested in another hammer that you wanted to try out, instead of just the Titron, Kittag gives it a pretty good run for its money, so long as you're running Emerald Shards, which, I mean, it is an Emerald Shard build, and people might be like, but Titron could do this without Emerald Shards in the past, and it still sort of can now. Though, that's kind of just another tool of the trade now. Like, we have so many Emerald Shard builds that are super popular in meta these days, like the Dual Toxicist, because that allows you to get free viral since it infuses toxin on itself, and then you basically buff it with yeah, like Nourish to get viral, mod Electric on to get Corrosive with just one mod slot, and then you run Emerald Shards. It shreds everything off. It's an Incarnon weapon, full auto, even ricochets. You don't need to worry about stuff not dying. So yeah, you just kill everything off like this. And we're gonna wait until the Acolyte shows up in a couple of minutes so that I can finish them off, because you'll see how well it works. Oh, I didn't have Influence as active on that one. You'll see that they still dot to death from the electric procs, which comes very handy, because even if you for some reason fail to land the initial kills, then you will still be able to dot them to death and proceed to tick the Vulcan Blitz afterwards. There's a very distinct sound it makes when enemies actually die from Vulcan Blitz, or trigger their own Vulcan Blitz. I don't know where the dude is. Oh, he was all the way over here. Well, let's make sure we have this up. And, oh, okay, so here's another limitation of the build. Because the Kittag is not a crit build, Acolytes actually have a hard damage cap on. Why did you go run all the way over there? So if you don't crit on them, you use the lower damage cap, and you also don't benefit from the crit damage multiplier, which makes it impossible for them to kill in one hit without crits. However, you don't need to worry about it, because melee influence will still taxi through and hit them through walls, or even when you're hitting other enemies. So you notice while I only hit the Acolyte once, and otherwise I was just minding my own business hitting everything else, I was still able to kill the Acolyte off through armor just from the electric dots, and that's because of melee influence triple dipping the Bane, where the Bane is based off of the original enemy hit for calculating the spread damage, and it shreds off the Acolyte that way. That might be why you wonder, that's like, how come when I hit the Acolyte directly, it does no damage? It's because, of course, the Bane does not apply to the Acolyte when you hit them. But melee influence is calculated from the original enemy hit, meaning if I say slam a Grineer unit, and then it determines how to spread the damage. This is also why Condition Overload works with Influence, because it's based off of the original enemy hit, not the subsequent enemies that have statuses on them. But that it will triple dip the Bane on the Grineer unit, and then take that final damage value and apply that to the Acolyte itself, which is why I was still able to deal so much damage through armor without even directly hitting myself to start with, and without even having crits, because when I actually hit them, it did basically nothing. Okay, so that's pretty much all you need to know for the Kittag today. I hope you all learned some pretty important stuff, and do stay tuned for our upcoming more hammer uploads, because there's a lot more interesting stuff. But I just wanted to highlight how, while old, maybe somewhat forgotten, the Kittag can definitely still stand up for itself and give the other more recent hammers a pretty big run for its money, be it Sempote's, Tenet Exec, or even the Titron pre and post nerf. As I always say, a like and a comment goes a ton of a way to helping out the channel. I appreciate all of the support you guys give me. Or better yet, do consider subscribing if it's your first time stopping by. But that'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.